and will often rebuild if the nest blows down. The nests are constructed mostly of sticks, and they are maintained by both the male and the female. A famous nest in Ohio was used for 34 years before it blew over. The female will lay 1 to 3 eggs, and both the male and female will rear the hatchlings. Locally, adult eagles really have no natural predators, but territorial conflict between eagles can be fatal. And this can extend to the chicks too. Eggs and nestlings face some risk of predation by predatory mammals, raccoons. This occurs pretty infrequently. These two images are of the same nest on Fox Lake. The first image was taken in 2017. The second is what this nest looks like now. And this nest has been active for every year for at least 10 years. I've enjoyed doing these birds. They are not shy at all. The nest is located on a privately owned, inaccessible island, but it is prominently situated on a very busy shoreline on the Chain of Lakes. And the juxtaposition of these birds on a busy summer Saturday with hundreds of birds is just really staggering. Here we have 1 adult and 2 juveniles in or I should say nestlings in the nest at Lake County's Fox River Forest Preserve. The original nest here blew down and the birds did rebuild. And this nest is at Sedge Meadow Forest Preserve. This preserve is adjacent to the Des Plaines River. These images illustrate a dramatic aerial maneuver eagles engage in, sometimes called spiraling, cartwheeling, or the death spiral. These in-air tangles can be territorial or aggressive in nature. They can also just simply represent courting behavior. The birds can sometimes tumble to the water or ground. Both or one can die. And these North American raptors are, of course, of great cultural significance to many, and they are a great success story of the environmental and conservation movements of the 20th century. Pollution, hunting, habitat loss, and persecution nearly brought about the extinction of our national symbol. At the lowest count in 1963, there were 417 active nests. The insecticide DDT, which was one of the pollutants most responsible for endangering the species, was banned in 1972. And they were listed as endangered by the Endangered Species Act in 1978. Many factors contributed to their recovery, and they were removed from the endangered species list in 2007. And although no longer listed as threatened or endangered in the state or federally, they are a recently recovered species. And if you've been birding locally for a decade or more, you've surely observed their recovery. They are protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Acts, among other regulation and legislations. The birds continue to be threatened by lead poisoning from spent ammunition in their prey, vehicle and structure collisions, habitat destruction, pollution, and rodenticide exposure. And rodenticide is a serious potential problem for all predators and scavengers and many raptors. Commonly referred to as rat poison, the pesticides are consumed by the target animals, and then the sick or dying animals are consumed by hawks or owls or other predators or scavengers. And over time, the pesticides can build up in the predator or scavenger's body at fatal levels. In the contiguous United States, it's estimated that the population of breeding and immature bald eagles is about 316,000. There are estimated to be at least 40 pairs of breeding bald eagles in the state of Illinois. From December to April, our population here exceeds 3,000 birds, second only to the state of Alaska, as we've got those migratory birds congregating along our open waterways. And I can't say for sure how many nests we have here in Lake County. I confirm that we have those 2 nests on our Lake County Forest Preserve District sites, which is, I think, very exciting for those of us that love our forest preserves. And pictured here, we have that nest on Fox Lake that I mentioned earlier on the left. And then on the lower right, we have an adult bald eagle from that nest. And on the top right, we have got those same bald eagles from Lake Marie congregating on the ice. There are likely more nests in Lake County, but they can be harder to locate as the birds continue to seek out sites in forested and more natural spaces than we're seeing with our osprey, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So getting yourself out onto the Chain of Lakes, the Fox River, really any bodies of water will present you with a good opportunity to spot an eagle. In the winter, again, you're going to look for them congregating on ice, open water, anywhere throughout the county. You might just happen to see them soaring overhead if you're paying attention. It might not be a vulture or a red-tailed hawk that you see. All right, and then our osprey. The osprey is one of only a few species occurring across the globe on all continents except Antarctica. In this image on the right, you can see their populations are wide-ranging. The peach color represents their breeding range, purple year-round, and blue non-breeding range. The ancient iconic raptor is known by many monikers, including the fishhawk and the seahawk. There are at least 4 subspecies of ospreys, and they may occur near any body of water, typically within about 12 miles of their nests with sufficient fish available in those bodies of water. They consume almost exclusively live-caught fish, and they are the only species in North America to do so. Increasingly cosmopolitan birds, they can be found in densely populated and developed areas, living very close among human populations. Nesting, fishing, everything, not just scoping for food. So effective anglers, some are noted for success rates of up to 70%, and they prefer shallow fishing areas as they are not deep divers. And on the one hand, there's not a whole lot to say about the diet of an osprey. They eat fish. That's like just about it. But that's notable in that they are our only raptors here that do so. The dive of a fishing osprey is truly one of the natural world's great wonders and displays of strength. The bird can hit speeds over 50 miles an hour as it approaches the water, feet first. The birds don't dive deep, but they often fully submerge themselves, and they appear to struggle in the water as they regrip to hold on to their fish. Their barbed skin and sharp talons enable them to grip while their wing adaptations give them maximum lift out of the water. Adult ospreys have a brown back and wings with mostly white undersides. Their 5.5-foot wingspan spreads out from a very slim body, especially if you're kind of comparing that to a hawk. They weigh about 3.5 pounds. The head is white with a brown stripe over the eye. The black beak is hooked and a crest may be visible atop the head. Juveniles are very similar in appearance, but you'll notice the white edging on the feathers on that bird on the right. That indicates a juvenile bird. The long white legs with black talons feature a reversible toe like owls have, and that is what allows them to so securely grasp those fish that are sometimes nearly as big as the bird when they're coming out of the water. And often they will line those fish up head first as they're coming out of the water or when flying through the air. And while they are skilled divers, they are actually not as agile in flight as a lot of our other hawks or raptors might be. And they can be recognized in flight by their slightly bowed wing and bent wrists, which form an M with rigid rowing wing beats, or perched atop the highest vantage point near a body of water. And visually identify them in flight by its bold white underbelly, the contrasting wing, and look for that dark patch at the front-facing bend in the wing. Wingspan will be proportionately wider to that rangy body. Most ospreys are migratory. There are non-migratory populations that exist throughout the globe and in North America. Non-migratory birds breed and reside in tropical and subtropical regions. Some birds travel great distances, and individuals have been recorded traveling over 160,000 miles in their 15 to 20-year lifespan. Lake County ospreys migrate south September to October-ish. Our juveniles are usually the last to leave. They are believed to winter in Florida and South America. And their migration is triggered by reduced daylight hours and cooler temperatures. They are long gone by the time we see ice here, and they'll usually return April to May. Ospreys build large stick nests atop natural platforms, often treetops or artificial platforms like cellular towers, with some ground or cliff nesting occurring globally. The sites are going to be open for easy approach and are typically built upon wide bases. Construct pretty sparse nests. The image on the left is a local cell tower nest. The County birds. And while their status as threatened in the state of Illinois does afford them many protections, their nests can be removed when the birds are not here. In fact, on November 15th, just this last month, a long-established Lake County nest was just removed. This was a nest I could view from my deck, and birds were the catalyst for this project. I couldn't script this. And it's possible that the birds will rebuild at this site, but we can't say for sure. Another nest near the Fox River met a similar fate in 2022. And some populations seemingly prefer man-made structures, particularly cellular towers or marine navigation markers, for nesting over their natural sites, even when natural sites are readily available. And it's thought that this may be due to the artificial sites offering greater stability and improved predator protections over those natural sites. And as observed here in Lake County, it has been documented globally that where the birds were locally extirpated, they return exclusively to those artificial nesting sites. They are not returning to their natural sites. And all known structures, putting the species at increased risk for conflict with humans. So osprey nests can be particularly problematic when erected on these man-made structures, like cellular towers, as the birds can cause significant damage. Yet in some areas, these are the very platforms that are responsible for their recovery. So this is an aerial shot of the nest we just saw being removed from this summer. And you can see how these nests really are problematic, how they can cause damage or would need to be removed just for basic maintenance on the towers. Male ospreys perform a sky dance or a fish flight as an act of courtship, with legs dangling, sometimes holding a fish or nesting materials. He will vocalize, hover, and swoop above the nest site. These displays can go on for 10 minutes and will often be repeated. And like eagles, both the male and female ospreys build and maintain their nests, and they usually return to the same site year after year. Generational additions can result in nests 13 feet deep and 6 feet in diameter. Ospreys typically lay 1 to 4 eggs, but they do not all hatch at the same time. Rather, they'll hatch over up to 5 days to ensure availability of food. And the oldest is dominant, and if food is limited, the youngest hatchlings may starve. Like the eagle, adult osprey have no natural predators. Eggs and nestlings are at risk of predation by other raptors or animals like raccoons, but again, this occurs infrequently. So like the bald eagle, the osprey was nearly extirpated from the state of Illinois due to pollution, hunting, habitat loss, persecution, and saw drastic populations declines throughout the United States. They were never listed as federally endangered, but they are protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and listed as threatened in the state of Illinois. And even though the species' global population is estimated at over 1 million birds, regional and localized populations remain vulnerable. The US population is estimated at 400,000 mature birds, and at least 16 active nests were observed in Lake County in 2023. All but one of these nests was on a cellular tower. The exception was on an artificial nest platform at Chain Lake State Park. The birds continue to be threatened by habitat loss, nest destruction, and hazards related to their artificial nest sites and living in proximity to humans. So you can scan for osprey from April through October, fishing in open water, perched atop cell phone towers, or you'll spot those bulky stick nests from the road. And around sunrise is the best time to see them emerging from their nests, and you'll often hear them calling as they make their way out for the day. There are no known nest sites in our Lake County Forest Preserves. However, Cook County's Skokie Lagoons has a nest on a platform, and McHenry County Forest Preserve District is home to a few platforms that have been recent over the years. Excuse me, that have been active over the years. Bald eagle and osprey populations are growing, which is great, but the species is becoming more urbanized, exploitative, and habituated to humans. Bald eagles are nesting with increasing frequency nearer to humans. And again, our ospreys are relying on our artificial nesting sites. Myriad threats exist to both species as a result of their increasing populations in close proximity to humans, including human conflict, nest failure, poisoning, entanglements, and these can all result in nestling, fledgling, juvenile, and adult injury or mortality. And pictured on the left, I'm sure we all heard about this poor bird, is a juvenile bald eagle that was spotted on ice floes on Lake Michigan and Waukegan. He was rescued and sadly did not survive. It's believed that he may have been suffering from rodenticide or lead exposure and succumbed to the stress in the elements. And on the right is an osprey entangled in power lines. This bird was rescued by line workers and he did survive. This did not occur in Lake County, but I included it because it demonstrates the risks of these birds relying on our artificial nesting structures. So what can we do to support these species and ensure that their populations persist in Lake County? We can support our Lake County Forest Preserve districts, the Preservation Foundation, and other organizations like Audubon Society that contribute to the restoration and conservation of these birds, can volunteer for our local Hawk Migration Association of North America chapters. This data contributes to critical population and migration research on raptors. They meet at the Illinois Beach State Park and Fort Sheridan. Vic was a founding member of the Illinois Beach chapter, and they just wrapped their 24th season. And I had the privilege of participating for a few hours, and it was a really great experience. I would highly encourage you all to volunteer or visit. And additionally, you'll find myriad organizations online that may speak to you that contribute to conservation raptor research. You know, one of the many wonderful things about Lake County are our opportunities to view wildlife and our forest preserves. We are home to more endangered species than any other county in the state. And I'll suggest a few sites here for viewing bald eagles and ospreys based on personal experience and reports or proximity to certain bodies of water. But as you may have already observed, once you've trained your eye, you can spot them just about anywhere if you're lucky. So like I said, keep an eye on those cell phone towers in proximity to lakes. Keep an eye on that turkey vulture out of the corner of your eye. It might just be an eagle if you can get underneath it and get a good view. In the winter, I will often spot eagles from the trail at Ethel's Woods. I suspect that those are associated with the sedge meadow nest. That's just my personal suspicion. Any of the Lake County Forest Preserve District access sites on the Des Plaines River or on the Fox River would be great places to paddle to look for the birds. Based on reports from photographers, birders, and volunteers, Lake County Forest Preserve has kind of put our heads together, and we suggest the Ethel's Woods, Des Plaines River Trail and Greenway, Spring Bluff, Grant Woods, Fort Sheridan, Rollins Savannah, Fox River, half-day forest preserves are all good spots to give it a go and try to spot some eagles. So at this point, I would like to open up to questions, conversation, invite any discussion. I consider this project ongoing. I'd love any insight or observations that you'd like to share. Tell me later if you know of any nest sites in Lake County Forest Preserve, because they really, really want to know. So that's the formal end. So does anybody have any questions, comments? Yes?
Are you willing to give up where the nest is at Sedge Meadow?
I am not. So you really got to go exercise those skills. It was a stretch for me to even put a forest preserve location in there. So yes.
Sedge Meadow can be observed, but from a distance from Mount 41.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm sworn to secrecy.
Okay, I'll find it.
It was active in March. Good to look at, but can't stay very long before you have to move.
If you want to see the birds, really just, if you can get yourself on a boat and get yourself to Fox Lake, that's the real one. To see those birds there with people, it's just like, you can't believe that they're just hanging out like that, like they do. So that would be my big suggestion. So anybody else have questions? Yeah.
Repeat the questions when they ask so that they can.
Oh, sure. Sure. Yes. Oh, hi.
Oh, I had a question about that eagle. When the bald eagle was next to the golden eagle. Will those two eagles be together like that? Will they hang together?
I am not
Was that picture of?
That's not, so that wasn't local.
Was it a spliced?
Nope,
picture?
so that did occur. I mean, they can be seen, in proximity. I don't think that's a common occurrence. But again, they don't occur here. I included that picture just so that people could see why they're sometimes misidentified. So,
One other thing, the observations you've been making at Fox River up at Chain Lake State Park.
Mhm.
There are so many eagles up there.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But one observation I made was the pelicans were arrived at the same time.
mhm.
And I watched them feeding together as pelicans were feeding on the fish. The eagles were also working with the pelicans.
Yeah.
It was like natural.
Working with or stealing from.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like the way nature should be.
Yeah, so for our online, he was commenting that he has observed pelicans and eagles fishing together. So it is reminiscent of watching wildlife footage from Alaska or something, where you see all of these animals interacting. And I grew up around here. I grew up on the chain, and this is just like so new. Like 10 years-ish new, this is not something I ever observed when I was younger. And so to see this happening again, just like in front of our houses or at a state park on the chain is just amazing. So to see that kind of natural behavior is just so great. Yeah.
I would just gonna recommend to people that if you go to the Chain of Lake State Park and you take the trail going north along the river, our group did that last
Okay.
year in mid-March.
Okay.
And we saw 12 bald eagles.
Okay.
And so it's very easy to see
Mhm.
from there. So if you want to take your family or whatever.
Okay.
just-
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't have to be a boater.
Sure. Yes. And when I say, yeah,
It's
you don't,
fun to be a
yes, you
boater.
don't have to be on the water, near the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
You may have been aware there was also an eagle's nest that was on Abbott property between Raven Glen and Neville's Woods.
Okay.
It's come down. It was there for 5 years now.
Yeah.
At least 5 years.
Okay.
Very, very productive, but
Yeah.
they fished on Mill Creek there.
Okay.
And when they took the dam out, and the water level was dropping, there was a lot of carp in there, so it was like a drive-through at McDonald's.
Yeah. And yeah.
I know that, Charlotte's seen this and I saw it, but there was an osprey nest right in Libertyville. That you could view from Lowe's, which is really in Vernon Hills.
Okay.
Across the way, so it was up on a tower.
I was gonna say, not on a tower. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so-
Yeah.
You'd see it this year, but.
No.
May I make a comment on that? Sure. They did remove the nest.
The Libertyville
The
nest.
Original nest
Okay.
that was there for 4 or 5 years, maybe. The Osprey built another nest on the next tower right next to it and said, hey, we're not leaving.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that they come back and build on the same tower. I threatened to my husband that he might have to put a platform in our yard if they don't, but
Yeah, I was gonna ask, are they doing something so they'll build either on maybe there's another tower next to it that's for the birds, or maybe there's little spiky things or pointy things that they can't get on the tower?
so to my knowledge, at this point, when they are clearing the towers, I have not read or heard or seen of them locally doing anything at this time to prevent the birds from nesting again. It seems as though they're clearing the nest and doing what they need to do. And if the birds come back, they come back. Now, nationally, there are pilot programs and different things that different places and organizations and businesses are trying. But this is Holly, the grad student talking, not anybody associated with Lake County Forest Preserves. I would really love to see platforms. I think that this is a problem, right? Like eventually something's got to give. They're going to start, like you were saying, implementing something so that the birds can't nest on the towers. I mean, you could see from that picture, you understand why they have to remove the nest. I don't want to vilify the tower owners or whoever's maintaining the towers. But I have not heard of or seen anything that they're doing locally to prevent the birds from nesting. It's just removing the nest to do whatever they're having to do. So.
Have you observed an, bald eagle taking the fish from the osprey?
I have never observed a bald eagle taking a fish from an osprey. I have seen lots of footage of bald eagles taking fish from everyone, people, fish, bear. I mean, they, stealing fish from everybody, but I personally have never witnessed it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just go on YouTube and you could just laugh at all the fishermen, poor guys with the eagles coming and taking their fish or what have you, so. Were there any questions online that I should address? Okay, great.
I'll ask one more.
Yeah.
Was there a component, either of your research or just personal interest, that was focused on human bird interaction or human animal interaction that you didn't talk about tonight with the Raptors that might be interesting to?
What do you mean by our interactions?
I think.
You mean the conflict, like in terms of? Sure. I mean, this is not associated with this project. I've the specific presentation that I developed for the forest reserves, but I mean, a lot of the persecution of these birds, we don't really see that, or I should say, science is not finding that those things are happening in terms of hunting or the intentional killing of raptors or harassment of raptors in our more developed areas. We're tending to see those kinds of conflicts in more rural areas or associated with farming. So we're talking about intentionally poisoning, leaving out baited, carcasses, roadkill, whatever, putting rodenticide or other poisons to get rid of the birds. Is that what you're referring to? Like that kind of things? So, I mean, that's very common out west is, or rural areas where these birds are associated with being detrimental to farming, basically, or rearing like chickens or other domesticated animals. Golden eagles, that's a separate can of worms that is not associated with bald eagles, but golden eagles have a bit more of a reputation in terms of having conflict with livestock. And sometimes bald eagles get wrapped up into that. There is, of course, the whole that bald eagle is going to pick up your cute little dog. That is really, really, really rare. I mean, when you look at the incidence of that actually happening, it's very rare. But people do have those concerns. But everything that I've seen says that we don't see a lot of persecution of the birds in developed suburban areas.
So this is a little random, but you mentioned lead being significant.
Yeah.
Is lead shot still legal in Illinois? And if so, why? It's not. No, it's the fishermen. It's the lead from the.
Well, it's a lot of things. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's legal or not. I mean, we all know how far distance coyotes, raccoons, deers, I mean, they can all travel from Wisconsin or from Iowa or, from wherever they want to travel from. So any animal that has been shot and recovered with lead, legal or not, they may have it in there. And then, yes, the fishing, weights, sinkers, whatever. And the fishing line is a real problem with entanglements for these birds, especially when we are in really like confined spaces like we have on the chain or on the Fox River. I mean, if you paddle, you probably see just line everywhere. There's line tangled up anywhere, all over the place. And so entanglements are a real problem for the birds as well. It's associated, but that fishing line that may cause an entanglement may also have little lead fixtures on it as well.
You know what the count was for the Eagles this year at
I don't know, but I know someone who might.
Illinois Beach?
I don't know. You mean just the migration count? I don't know, but Vic might know. Do you know how many? You don't have any? Okay. Over 300 you observe they up.
300?
Yeah, maybe.
Baldy, possibly?
Estimated.
Yeah, I guess.
Off the record. Anybody else?
Is that bald eagle still down at the power plant? They're off and on.
Come on, Vic.
This year, I'm sorry, it was 229. Bald eagles at Illinois Beach. And the numbers have been going skyrocketing over the last few years. Bald eagles.
All right. Well, I'll just say thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate you listening to my presentation. If you have any questions about my sources, or if there's any information you'd like to share with me, you can email me. My email address is Holly, M as in Mary, Garvey, Garvey @gmail.com. And I appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very informative. We hope to see you out there.